Mysteries tonight.
When I sat down, I put my feet out of the hatch. I was afraid to go, you know, and but you had no choice. You're going down one way or the other.
Talk about a high wire act. Amazing stories of maritimers at war tonight, live at 5.
Now, from the ATV News Center at every city and town in the Maritimes, this is the ATV Evening News, live at 5.
Good evening and welcome to Live at 5 for Wednesday, November 10th. I'm Nancy Regan.
And I'm Paul Meunier on the day before Remembrance Day, but tonight we're thinking about the environment and wondering earlier today as we were, Nancy, whatever happened to the environment crusade, where to go? Of course, it was a hot issue in the 80s.
Certainly.
Perhaps the recession, looking for jobs has put that on the back burner. But tonight, we are going to focus on some environmental issues that affect each and every one of us.
I'm Mark Miller. Why Halifax needs to get the harbor cleanup going right away. We'll have that story coming up on Live at 5.
I'm Randy McDonald in Glace Bay. Tires everywhere. What to do with a dump full of rubber? Trying to get rid of an environmental eyesore and a fire hazard. Coming up on Live at 5.
I'm Mike Cameron in St. John, and if you own a home, a lot of this kind of material is going to look familiar to you. We'll tell you what you can do to get rid of it later in Live at 5.
And also ahead tonight, meet a maritimer who would not let unemployment defeat him. He couldn't find a job, so he made one for himself. How desperation can lead to courage and ingenuity later.
And Yvonne Colbert's on the side of a maritime couple who went to a Halloween party expecting prizes, found out there were none, and will also be visited by cartoon crazy characters Ren and Stimpy. That's coming up tonight. First, let's check in with Steve Murphy, who's working on the ATV Evening News at 6. Steve, what's up?
All right, Paul, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. St. John City Police are on the scene of some kind of standoff in the north end of the city. They've been there pretty well all afternoon, surrounding this apartment house on Manners Sutton Road. Right now, they're just walking around, appraising the situation, apparently waiting for somebody or something. An ATV News team is also on the scene. We have the latest from them tonight at 6 o'clock. Also, coming up on the ATV Evening News, have public servants become public scapegoats? They're forced to take unpaid leave in order to trim government budgets. Others have their salaries frozen or rolled back. Government leaders have targeted the bureaucrats, but is it fair? The story at 6 o'clock. Also tonight, the chase is on. The ATV cameras are there to track a professor who stirred up a hornet's nest on campus with his comments about rape. Date rape in particular. The story, the latest, from UNB College Hill tonight on the ATV Evening News at 6 o'clock. But right now, it's time for our first fast look at the maritime weather forecast. Here's Richard Zarowski in the ATV Weather Center. Richard?
Thanks a lot, Steve. And right now, we're tracking a bit of a disturbance down to the south, but for the most part, it looks as though that area of high pressure will be our weather maker. That means mainly clear skies still in the maritime regions, I'm happy to say. I'm also happy to give you the forecast that I'm working on coming up in about 25 minutes on Live at 5, Steve.
Okay, weather in about a half hour, and then all the day's news at 6 o'clock, including what could be a puppy mill busted in the Metro Halifax area. Elsie sworn in Ottawa, and speaking of politicians, meet Tom Forfar. He says he is a witch and will cast a spell, or maybe more than a spell, to get himself a seat on St. John City Council. 22. And old Black Magic's here tonight on the ATV Evening News at 6 o'clock, right after Live at 5, with Nancy and Paul.
Thank you, Steve. First at 5 tonight, the environment. The environmental awareness of the 80s seemed to disappear around the time the recession kicked in as people became more concerned about jobs. But the problems, of course, didn't go away. And while some have been dealt with, many others are awaiting action, including, as you're about to see, basic environmental garbage issues that affect you and me just about every day.
Caring for the environment involves a lot more than the 3 R's school children have been taught to recite. There are bigger projects to tackle, of course. For instance, the Nova Scotia government is now talking about privatizing the Halifax Harbour Cleanup Project. The idea was raised today at Province House after Dartmouth officials complained the project is getting too expensive. The project was originally priced at $200 million, but a series of delays and problems have doubled the cost of the project to $400 million. ATV's Mark Miller is standing by with that story. Mark.
Well, when the original plans for this project were drawn up a few years ago, Nancy, the option was always left open. The door was always left open to bring in private developers to help pay the bill. But the idea wasn't talked about very much until today. Sewage splashes into the sea. This is how Halifax and Dartmouth get rid of their waste. It's earned the metro area failing grades with environmentalists. In 1990, Halifax was rated the worst city in Canada for waste treatment. In that time, little has changed. The sewage outflow pipes are located all along the waterfront. The smell today isn't actually that bad. Halifax is one of the few Canadian cities, in fact, one of the few cities in North America that still dumps untreated sewage directly into the sea. But the harbor cleanup is a controversial and expensive project. With costs now double original projections, it's also a political time bomb with taxpayers.
And in fact, the project continues to make commitments and contractual commitments to spend money, when in fact now it has to be determined whether this may be too rich for us to proceed with.
In the House today, Jay Abbas admitted that the project needed a second look, that new ways to pay for cost overruns need to be looked at.
And it was made clear by both the Premier and myself that all options for finding a solution should and would be pursued. A privatization subcommittee was struck.
That could mean a private company would build the project, manage it, and lease it back to the municipalities. Reaction is mixed.
We have to have some assurance that we're going to have control over the costs of operating this particular treatment plant.
Well, if private money wanted to come in as another partner with the municipalities, the province and the feds to ensure that this project get underway, I for one would welcome that. Just let's get rolling and get people to work.
Paul, much of the frustration here is born out of waiting for the federal government to commit more money to this project. Now, they are on record as saying they'll pay 1/3 of the original $200 million cost on the harbor cleanup, but of course, that price tag has now doubled to $400 million, and some new agreements will obviously have to be signed.
Yeah, and of course, the new government in place. So what's the latest word from the feds? I mean, the bottom line here is people have been waiting for this problem to be addressed. It has been addressed on paper, but no concrete action yet.
Well, that's right. David Dingwall, of course, was down in the province on the weekend, and he has said that the harbor cleanup certainly falls into the job creation strategy that the Liberals talked about so much during that election campaign. Now it's just a matter of wait and see to see someone at the federal level sign on that dotted line.
And the waiting continues. All right, thank you, Mark Miller, reporting live in Halifax. Nancy?
Well, Paul, still on the environmental beat, a wasteland of old tires is going to be cleaned up in Glace Bay. The rubber dump is the legacy of a tire retreading plant which hit the skids shortly after it opened. ATV's Randy McDonald has the story as he joins us live from Sydney. Randy.
Well, Nancy, as you say, the town of Glace Bay has finally decided to rid itself of a real environmental mess. More than 10,000 used tires are going to be trucked to a high-tech incinerator in the state of Maine.
Quite an awful mess down here.
Harry Sable and John McNeil are grassroots recyclers. They collect and resell old tires that still have some tread. A half-decent used tire will fetch $5 or $10. The pair's hunting ground on this day, an abandoned oasis of rubber, an unsightly tire dump in Glace Bay that has left neighbors fuming.
It's terrible. If you just went over and had, did you see it?
Yes.
Yes, it's a terrible, it's a disgrace to have this in our town, and it shouldn't be left like this.
The tires are more than an eyesore. They are a fire waiting to happen. The area has been plagued by vandalism. A blaze here would force hundreds of people from nearby homes.
If we had a fire in that area there where the homes are just a few hundred meters away, we certainly would have to go into an evacuation of the people in that area because of the toxic gases that would come off of those tires.
It's ironic that this sprawling tire dump is the byproduct of the best of intentions, a plant which was going to recycle the rubber and put it back on the road. Technitread was an ill-fated taxpayer-funded venture into the tire retreading business, which ended in a fiasco. The plant's doomed recycling effort did nothing to fuel interest in giving old tires new life.
Well, we dump them in the dumpster. Total Recycling comes, hauls them away, and that's our last we hear of it.
This automotive garage alone throws out between 300 and 400 old tires a month. The rubber goes into a local landfill, adding to the overflow of waste already polluting our planet. The Rubber Association of Canada told us today that we as Canadians are very big consumers of tires. In fact, last year alone, Canadians purchased as replacement tires 12.7 million. Nancy, Paul?
Randy, from what you learned today, what would you say is the state of recycling tires?
Well, it's in a pretty sick state, Nancy. As far as I could determine, there's very little recycling going on. That bin that we saw the tires being thrown into, we were optimistic. It was being taken to a place called Total Recycling, but we contacted them today, and they say, in fact, they take out the cardboard and the good paper out of the recycling bin, but then the tires are just trucked to the dump.
It's kind of horrifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks, Randy.
You're welcome.
ATV's Randy McDonald, Sydney tonight. Paul.
Well, Nancy, anyone who does work around the house eventually runs into this problem. What to do with the cans of paint, used oil, gasoline, or other chemicals that accumulate downstairs or in the garage? ATV's Mike Cameron's been looking into this question today, and he's standing by in St. John. Mike, what should people be doing with some of the hazardous material that they collect and I guess eventually end up hoarding?
Paul, there is no easy answer to this. It depends a lot on the substance the homeowner is trying to get rid of and on what facilities are available in each community to handle the material.
Hazardous materials, so if you run into any...
The guys filling the truck don't have time to check every bag.
Do you ever wonder what's in some of these bags when you're throwing them in? Like ever concerned about what's in some of these bags?
Well, if I can smell an odor that's unfamiliar, I'll open up and look at it like a liquid.
A petroleum or something like that?
Something like that, yes.
The number one rule with a garbage man is don't let the bag slap your leg.
Why is that?
You're forever running into glass, needles, any sharp objects, nails.
Ever have a situation where you're splashed by something?
All the time. And you name it. Most of the time, we don't even know what it is.
And it's not unusual for any truck to leave a trail, like this one did.
The paint was sitting in the garbage, compressed into the truck, dripping out on the street.
David Baird is with Keep St. John Beautiful, a local environmental group. He says used paint poses a problem for homeowners.
Well, the best advice there is use it. If you can't use it, give it to somebody else who can. And if that's not an option, take the lid off and let it go hard.
Why let it go hard?
Because then it can go in with the regular garbage.
Alan Smith has a typical collection of household waste products.
A little bit of PVC glue.
He's had trouble getting rid of it.
I even put some of the paint cans on it with the regular garbage, and it was left behind. So when that was left behind, I called the sanitation department to ask them how to get rid of it. They said, we don't pick it up, call the environment people. Call the environment people, we've got no place to get rid of it, just get typical government runaround.
He says the environment department gave him an unusual suggestion.
Well, they told me to take and open up some of the cans of paint, put a little bit of kitty litter in it, let it dry itself up, and then put it in some garbage bags so they wouldn't be able to see it.
Today, the environment department defended that suggestion, saying it's a safer way to get the material to the dump. Some service stations have agreed to take used motor oil and other petroleum products, and the sanitation department advises homeowners to wait for cleanup week when garbage collectors are prepared to encounter household waste on the curbside. And of course, fire departments everywhere beg people not to empty these materials down the sewer, and that can turn one guy's problem into a problem for the entire neighborhood.
Yeah, no question about it, Mike, but I talked to a lot of people today who say that they hoard the stuff. They often don't know when that special day that you spoke about happens. Exactly. Why can't there just be like a central collections area for these hazardous household materials? Because we all have them.
Well, there are groups in St. John who are planning waste reduction strategies for the future, and they'd like to see these drop-off centers established as part of waste reduction strategies. But, of course, it's a question of money. What level of government wants to take responsibility for paying for it? What level of government wants to take responsibility for collecting it and holding it until someone else picks it up?
Yeah. That's been an individual struggle as well, the environment versus the cost of recycling.
Oh, it's a universal struggle, no question about that.
Yeah. Well, thanks, the latest Mike. Is we hear at least one community, Dartmouth, is thinking about having a hazardous waste depot. So at least there's a step there.
ATV's Mike Cameron in St. John, of course. Lots more still to come on Live at 5 tonight. Richard Zorowski's Remembrance Day weather forecast is ahead, and we'll show you how school children around the region observe Remembrance Day. Is it more than just a day off from school?
But next, so you're out of work. Well, you might be inspired by the Maritimer we're about to introduce you to as we tell his story in a moment.
It was my worst year, that being out there looking for a job, there was none out there to offer. There's even places you go, there's a sign at the door saying, no help wanted.
Air Nova and Continental Airlines invite you to do the one step. One ticket, one baggage check, one connection at Newark. Air Nova gets you from Atlantic Canada onto non-stop flights to more than 50 cities in the USA. So while the other guys waltz you all around the country, Air Nova gives you the one step to more than 50 cities in the USA and beyond.
Say, that's a great-looking camera you have. Hey, it's you again. You know, around our house, you're known as the Nippon camera guy.
Thanks.
Listen, I've heard the Nippon camera's gone on to record-breaking sales. It's even been featured on a CNBC Consumer Report.
The Nippon 35mm gets my... okay.
So, let me guess. With the holiday season fast approaching, you're recommending the Nippon camera as a great Christmas gift, right?
You bet. Call now for guaranteed Christmas delivery on this value-priced camera. But that's not all. Call right now and you'll get 100 rolls of free Kodak film with purchase processing. The Nippon 35mm focus-free camera and 100 rolls of free Kodak film with purchase processing. Incredibly priced at $24.95. And it makes the perfect Christmas gift.
You know, you're almost as recognizable as that other guy at Christmas.
To order your Nippon camera, call 1-800-263-4506. That's 1-800-263-4506, or write to the address on your screen.
What would you pay for Greco's Sweet Deal 2?
21 bucks.
28.
Around 25 bucks.
$24.99.
How about $15.95?
That's a really sweet deal.
Round number 7.
As we come home in Montana.
You're looking at 7th round action from the Virgil Hill Seoul Montana WBA light heavyweight title bout in North Dakota last night. That's Virgil Hill, hands raised. He was taunting Montana there after those rabbit punches. Montana's corner threw in the towel in the 10th. And yeah, I think maritime boxing fans would have recognized the guy in the middle of the ring. That's Hubert Earl of Halifax. Hubert, of course, a world-class professional boxing ref who's been in the ring for some pretty major bouts. And Virgil Hill, by the way, last night tied the record of 14 title defenses in the light heavyweight division. Well, there were no boxing gloves in Halifax last night, but there was spirited debate at Dalhousie University. The topic, decriminalization of prostitution. We asked your opinion on the subject last night in our Live at 5 telephone poll. Now, before we tell you those results, here's a sample from the debate.
Pimps set daily earning quotas. Failure to meet those quotas often leads to beatings, forced sexual acts, drug addiction, and other subtle forms of coercion are used to keep the girls in line. This turns the typical pimp-prostitution relationship, one from what is just business, and what in fact becomes slavery.
Saying to you that he found the question, should prostitution be decriminalized, a difficult question to answer. I'm going to tell you that I think it's an easy question to answer. I think the answer is clearly yes. And I'm going to tell you why I feel that and why I feel it so emphatically. I've already told you that I think prostitution is about socioeconomic injustice. It's about what women do to survive.
No clear winners in the debate last night. Rather, it was an exchange of views on the matter of prostitution and the law. And a footnote to the story, over 400 people attended the debate, and all the proceeds went to Stepping Stone, a support group in Halifax that, among other things, helps prostitutes get off the street. Certainly a good cause. Now, to those of you who cast your ballots electronically during our Live at 5 telephone poll, here are the numbers. We had 1,877 calls. 48% of you called agreed that prostitution should be legalized, while the majority, 52%, said no, we should maintain the status quo. It's not a scientific poll, of course, but it does represent the views of over 1,800 Maritimers, and we thank you for calling and taking part in our Live at 5 telephone poll. Nancy?
Well, Paul, from one societal problem to another, the unemployment rate in this region is on average 14%. The prospects for finding work bleak. Tonight, ATV's Alex Vass introduces us to a Moncton man who said goodbye to unemployment insurance and created his own job. In fact, he created his own business. It's Paul LeBlanc's way of saying goodbye to unemployment.
This was my worst year, that being out there looking for a job, there was none out there to offer. There's even places you go, there's a sign at the door saying, no help wanted.
The past couple of years have been tough ones for Paul LeBlanc. He was fired from his job without just cause.
Last week, it was 8 o'clock at night. Don't bother coming in. You're not working here no more. Just come in tomorrow and pick up your T4. So I did.
His unemployment insurance was suspended, so he had to fight to get it back. It took time, but he won. For this 33-year-old family man, it has meant 4 months this year without any income. It has been quite a change for a guy who always had a job.
I was so depressed that it cost me I've been to the hospital and that a few times. That I was taking attacks. I couldn't breathe no more. And through all this was all through stress and everything, through what I was going through. So I just got my act together and say, you know, I'm not going to let all this run me down. You know, if I can't find a job at, I'll just have to make one myself. The small one over here they want. Yeah.
He decided to buy a truck for light trucking jobs and build garbage bins so he could start his own garbage collection business. LeBlanc's doing it without any background in business. He only has a grade 8 education. He's been at it now for about 4 months.
There we go. That wasn't so bad. Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Paul's father-in-law, Claude Johnson, is paying close attention to what's happening. He's retired after working on the railway.
In my days, you could get a job and stay on it for 30, 35, 40 years, like I stayed in the railway, but no more. You got to build your own today.
Well, let's go and deliver this one and get it to a potential customer.
All right. It's always been my dream to do something like this. To have my own truck and do some trucking business.
It was Paul LeBlanc's idea to build the garbage bins and start the light trucking business, but he needed help getting it off the ground. Tomorrow on Live at 5, I'll take a look at how he turned his dream into a reality. In Moncton, Alex Fass, ATV News.
Thank you, Alex. And as Alex said, part 2 is tomorrow night. Stay tuned. And don't go away right now. We're waiting for a house call from Live at 5's Dr. Stuart Cameron, who has some important information about a new drug for chickenpox.
And when we return, they're a strange duo with a growing following. We're going to find out about Ren and Stimpy in a moment.
It wouldn't be on TV if there wasn't an edge, if there wasn't a line to cross. You know, I mean, so we're constantly crowding that line, but, you know, obviously, if we go, you know, too far, they're going to tell us. You know.
The Chrysler Magic Wagon was never meant to be put on a pedestal. But with features like air conditioning, 7-passenger seating, automatic transmission, and a V6 engine, and now dual front airbags and steel side door impact beams as standard safety equipment, about the only thing that brings the world's most popular minivan down to earth is the price. 1994 Caravan Voyager, the value and safety leader, only at your Atlantic Chrysler team.
It's a big deal when hot and cool connect.
Hot eats, cool treats, a Dairy Queen.
Want a bargain? Get a move on to Dairy Queen for the 3-for-all, only $3.79. Get a 1/3 pound double cheeseburger, add a large order of golden fries, and a 21 fluid ounce soft drink. Put them all together, and you've got a 3-for-all for just $3.79. Now at Dairy Queen.
Hot eats, cool treats, we treat you right.
Steve Green, a voice of hope that has touched the hearts of millions. Now you can hear Steve in concert, singing favorites from 9 inspiring recordings, encouraging the children, renewing our faith. Steve Green in concert, an uplifting experience for the entire family.
Tickets at the Moncton Coliseum box office, Atlantic Baptist College, and your local Christian bookstore.
Saw it this morning. Great job.
Good morning.
Pleased to accept this, and it's the Gold Ribbon Award for Broadcast Excellency. It's a real
That
honor.
is Alan Waters, president of ATV's parent company, Chum Limited, as he accepted a prestigious Gold Ribbon Award for Broadcast Excellence last night at the annual convention of the Canadian Association of Broadcasters. The award is presented annually for outstanding service to Canadian private broadcasting to an individual who has made significant contributions to the Canadian broadcasting industry. Mr. Waters has served the broadcast industry for almost 40 years, and we send out our heartiest congratulations.
Indeed, and it's been a very good week for ATV. Christmas Daddies, our telethon, has also been honored with a Gold Ribbon Award from the Canadian Association of Broadcasters. The Outstanding Achievement Award went to the telethon for excellence in community service, and it's something we're very proud of And we'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, our viewers, who have given so generously each year, and of course our ATV team, dozens of staff members who volunteer their time and effort to make Christmas Daddies one of the finest telethons in the nation. It's recognized this week by the CAB. Christmas Daddies now in its 29th year of fundraising for the Children's Aid Society, and this year promises to be the best yet. This year ATV brings you the Christmas Daddies Telethon on December the 5th. And one other note from the CAB's, congratulations to our sister station ASM, which picked up a gold ribbon award for station promotion. So good week for us.
All right, another type of milestones now. Anniversary time again on Live at 5. We start off with Bessie and Harold Minard of Mount Rose, Nova Scotia. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary today. Best wishes from their one daughter and their one son, 3 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, as well as family and friends. Also marking their golden anniversary today, Herman and Diana Murphy of Chatham. Love and sincere best wishes sent from their 5 children, 16 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Everybody here in the newsroom wishes the Menards and the Murphys all the best on their very special milestones. And if you're celebrating a milestone in your life, congratulations to you too.
Sad to say, Nancy, that the Cape Breton Breakers won't be celebrating a 2nd anniversary. The National Basketball League team has had its franchise revoked. The Breakers owe the NBL $36,000. League officials say they have some interest in keeping that franchise in Cape Breton, but as yet they don't have new owners. The Breakers went all the way to the final of the NBL, as you'll recall, last summer. Speaking of entertainment, a different kind now.
The Nightmare Before Christmas is the top ticket seller at the box office right now. Indeed, the new golden age of animation has a strange side, and there's nothing much more unusual than the animated team of Ren and Stimpy.
They're out there. Dennis Michael visited the studios, which are busy churning out a 3rd season of these offbeat adventures.
You're talking about, you idiot?
Children's Cartoon Fair used to be populated with Care Bears and Smurfs, but the 90s are a stranger time. This month, Nickelodeon is premiering a 3rd season of the adventures of Ren and Stimpy, a show for kids that's not sweet, cute, polite, or well-behaved.
This show is about pushing the edge, and it wouldn't be on TV if there wasn't an edge, if there wasn't a line to cross.
Billy West is the voice of both Ren Hoke and Stimpy the Cat, and a contributing writer.
My name is Stimson J. Cat of the Ren and Stimpy Show, and I've come to play with you.
And Ren is real scrawny and asthmatic and lots of stuff wrong with him. And he's like, he always wants to kill somebody.
He's a little shocked to see what Stimpy's doing.
Stimpy, are you playing with your belly button again?
Storylines, soundtracks, and design work for Ren and Stimpy are done in Hollywood. Animation is done abroad. This year, storylines run from Stimpy's lack of resistance to heavy sales pressure.
You look like a man who could use a good can of salve.
To an episode that examines a highly suspect surgical procedure.
Here's Stimpy in the operating room. The doctor's getting ready to surgically take the fat from Stimpy's butt. And as you can see down here, they're scooping it up, ready to implant it into Ren's chest.
Not everyone is comfortable with Ren and Stimpy, but that's fine with Bob Camp.
If people think this show has edge, it's because we make sure it has edge, and we push that. And, I mean, if there wasn't someone at least a little bothered by it, then I'd feel like we weren't doing our job.
That's a scene on in Canada on Much Music. It's one of those way out there ones. I know the kids love it because I hear from the kids that I talk to, but adults like that stuff too, as witnessed by some of the laughter off camera here in the newsroom.
You hear the chuckles. Well, there's lots more to come on the midweek edition of Live at 5, including these stories.
I'm Dr. Stuart Cameron. There's a drug that may be effective in treating chickenpox. Later on Live at 5, we'll talk about who should get it and who doesn't need it.
I'm Yvonne Colbert on your side. Halloween may be over for this year, but for one Maritimer, it's not forgotten. I'll tell you why later on Live at 5.
And Richard Zarowski has the Remembrance Day forecast for all of the Maritimes. That's when we return. Stay with us.
During the course of one 60-minute workout, the body needs vitamins B6 and C, carbohydrates, and potassium, some of which, as nature would have it, you can get by eating one Chiquita banana. So be sure to have one for the road. Chiquita, quite possibly the world's favorite food.
Hi,
I'm Tammy. Tamara and I are Champs, members of the War Amps Child Amputee Program. I lost my leg when I was 2. I chased a ball onto the street and was hit by a car. Now I warn young children to play safe. Remember, spot the danger before you play.
Safety is no accident, so play safe.
A message from the War Amps.
Personally, I love shopping during the festive season. Scares me. The Christmassy sights, sounds. Instead of going from store to store, I just do all my shopping in one stop at Sears.
You'll find Aero plaid sport shirts already gift boxed for convenience. Sanyo personal CD players with computerized anti-skip technology. Fashionable leather swivel chair and ottoman sets in the hottest look.
One-stop shopping means more time for the important things.
There's no place like Sears this Christmas.
Expect more from Sears.
This is it. Wacky's first ever 24-hour inventory sell-off. Get huge savings throughout the store. Buy now, pay nothing for up to 6 months. No down payment, no interest, and no payments. Get $2,500 instant credit on approval. Save on TVs, VCRs, camcorders, microwaves, cellular phones, area rugs, hardwood flooring, blinds, shampooers, carpet, and much, much more. Get the gift you want now and pay nothing for up to 6 months with no down payment, no interest, and no payments. It's Wacky's 24-hour total inventory sell-off. Friday and Saturday, 9 till 9 at these Wacky Wheatley locations.
Only a puppy.
He's so cute.
Murphy the dog was getting lots of attention as he made his way through Wilmot Park in Fredericton. Seems the friendly little pooch has lots of adoring friends, and no wonder, eh? What a cutie.
Yeah, cute little puppy dog.
Yeah.
Richard Zarowski has friends all over the Maritimes, especially when he has a weather forecast like the one I think he's about to deliver. What do you got for us, Richard?
Well, Paul and Nancy, I guess it's hard to be anything but happy with the weather that we're getting across the maritime regions. That beautiful ridge of high pressure still south of the Great Lakes, pushing right into the maritime regions. You can see one low pressure disturbance up to the north, another one down along the eastern seaboard. Those two weather makers are trying to converge on the Maritimes, but it looks as though, aside from just a few cloudy spots down to the south and a few scattered snow flurries up to the north, the ridge of high pressure is going to hold up rather nicely. And many areas today hit the double-digit mark. And when you consider the fact that we're well into November, that really is a surprising occurrence. We're looking at that beautiful southwesterly flow that keeps the temperature up, also brings us clear skies. Look at some of these temperatures today. It was a little on the cold side to the north, 0 to -3 degrees, but the rest of the Maritimes were not too bad at all. 9s and 10s and 6s and 7s. A few cloudy spots here and there, but for the most part, a great forecast through the Maritimes. For tonight, we're going to repeat what we had last night. A bit of a disturbance up to the north. Could be a few scattered snow flurries as a result of that. Temperatures around -4 to -6 degrees in through the central and northern areas of New Brunswick. As we head down to the south, temperatures do climb a bit. It's the influence of the water, also that southwesterly flow. Temperatures hovering around 3 degrees, and then as we start to move down to the south again, anywhere from 0 to -3 degrees for the temperatures in the mainland of Nova Scotia, 2 to 3 degrees out to the east in Cape Breton Island and Prince Edward Island. Again, up to the north, there could be a few scattered snow flurries and some cloudy conditions, so if you happen to be out and about, give that a little bit of thought. It's a low-pressure disturbance that's over central Quebec by tomorrow evening. Warm front draped over the maritime regions. Well, that's going to be our weather maker because we're looking at a southwesterly flow. One low-pressure disturbance well east of Newfoundland, the area of high pressure ridging right along the eastern seaboard and south of the Great Lakes region into the extreme southwestern portions of the United States, and that bodes well for us. As far as systems go, again, the area of high pressure just continues to intrude in the maritime regions. Temperatures through New Brunswick, anywhere from +2 to +4 degrees. A little bit cooler. The cold front gets a chance to move down to the south just a little bit. It's not very active, though. You're looking at a few scattered snow flurries to the north. You're also looking at the flow coming in off Chaleur Bay, creating some of the snow flurries. As we move through the central and southern areas of the map, we're looking at partly cloudy conditions. Some cloud will be popping up from time to time. Again, the influence of the water. Let's take a look at some of those temperatures. In through New Brunswick, 2 to 4 degrees out to the east. Temperatures will be steady between 5 and 6 degrees, and along the mainland of Nova Scotia, temperatures will be between 5 and 8 degrees. Not quite as warm as it was today, but then again, still not too bad at all. And of course, with the area of high pressure sticking around for the next few days, pretty much what you see is what you get. And as far as the rest of the week goes, right into the weekend, 70% probability of sunshine for tomorrow, for Friday. 70% also on Saturday, and the temperatures do stay mild as well, and a 40% probability of sunshine on Sunday. Unfortunately, we have a disturbance rolling through, but for the next 2 or 3 days, great weather's coming up. Nancy.
We can't really complain about that, can we, Richard? Thank you. Well, we're on a medical beat now here on Live at 5. Chickenpox is one of those childhood diseases that many parents simply accept. We don't even immunize against it. However, it can lead to serious complications. Now, a drug has been cleared for use in treating chickenpox, but not every child should get it. ATV's Dr. Stuart Cameron explains.
Chickenpox is one of the most infectious of the childhood diseases. 95% of susceptible children who are exposed to it will come down with the typical symptoms of rash and fever. For most children, it's just a few days of itching and some time off school.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Complications from chickenpox can be severe, however. They include Rye syndrome, meningitis, or pneumonia. The drug acyclovir has some effect against the virus that causes chickenpox. It has been tested and shown to be effective if given early enough. However, the Canadian Pediatric Society now recommends that this drug not be used in healthy kids with chickenpox. The Canadian Pediatric Society points out that the drug is expensive. It's not very effective if not used right away, and there are concerns about the virus becoming drug resistant. They recommend that acyclovir should be used in the first 24 hours when chickenpox is diagnosed only in the following situations. Healthy people over 13 years of age, they tend to get a more severe disease. Children over a year old with a chronic skin or lung disorder. People who are taking regular aspirin treatment, and children receiving steroid drugs. Even children using short-term inhaled steroids for asthma should be considered for acyclovir therapy if they get chickenpox. The drug is given by mouth for 5 days. Acyclovir should not be taken by anyone who is pregnant, and it should not be given to prevent chickenpox in healthy children.
Dr. Cameron, are there any other drawbacks or side effects with this drug?
Acyclovir is surprisingly well tolerated and causes very few side effects, except when given in high doses intravenously.
All right. Thanks very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Doctor. Dr. Stuart Cameron. Here's Paul.
All right, Nancy, still ahead tonight, Bill Jessum's Memories of War. And when we return, Yvonne Colbert's On Your Side.
I actually have to get ready days and times to get them all good.
So, just when I figure she's told me everything, the Guardian pharmacist says, and don't overdo it with the green vegetables. And I said, what, no broccoli? And she said, nope, it could interfere with the medication. Now, I never would have known that if she hadn't taken the time to tell me. That's what I like about Guardian. They talk to you. So I say, what about spinach? And she says, nope, which is fine, because I'm not big on spinach anyway.
Get to know your Guardian pharmacist.
Introducing a Little Downy. Ultra Downy. It's much smaller, and just one tiny capful gives you the fluffiest softness. Watch.
1, 1. 2, 2. 3, 3. 4, 4.
Case closed. Ultra Downy. One tiny capful for the height of softness.
Catch the Christmas spirit at Rhoda's Christmas celebration of crafts, antiques, art, and foodstuffs from Friday, November 12th to Sunday, November 14th at Exhibition Park, St. John. Rhoda's Christmas celebration, where you'll find great gift ideas from November 12th to the 14th in St. John.
Feel the heat tonight as your St. John Flames take on the PEI Senators at Harbor Station. Tickets are still available at the Harbor Station box office. Game time, 7:30 tonight. Don't miss the Flames tonight.
Let's make it perfectly clear. 93 Ford Tempo GLs, automatic with air. Only $259 a month. Absolutely nothing down. Everything included. Everything. PDI, freight, all taxes. Everything means everything. The bottom line is $259 a month. Zero down. Drive a 93 Tempo for only $259 a month. Talk about price. Talk about service. Talk to Wood Motors, Fredericton and Ormoncton.
Well, an indoor soccer team named the Heat lived up to its name last night. The Pennsylvania team was on its way to a game in Ohio when the back of their Greyhound bus burst into flames. Now, everyone got off the bus safely before the fire consumed the back section of the vehicle. So far, they don't know what caused that blaze. Yvonne Colbert standing by on your side. First, let's check in with Steve Murphy, who's working on the ATV Evening News at 6. Steve?
All right, thank you, Paul. Afternoon, everybody. Late word from St. John. The standoff in the north end is over. ATV cameras are there to show you how it ended. That's coming up on the Evening News at 6 o'clock. Also tonight, now that Elsie Wayne's off to Ottawa, will her voice be heard? She's one of only 2 Tories who survived the election. Question is, can St. Johners be represented by somebody who's neither government nor official opposition? Story at 6 o'clock. Also tonight, have public servants become public scapegoats? They've been forced to take unpaid leave and rollbacks and wage freezes in order to help trim government budgets. Government leaders target the bureaucrats. We want to know, is it fair? Tonight at 6 o'clock. And the Nova Scotia government is accused of taking it out on the poor. That story and more coming up in 20 minutes on the ATV Evening News. After Live at 5, which continues now on your side.
Thank you, Steve. It is time now for ATV on your side with Yvonne Colbert, and tonight a belated Halloween story.
That's right. Now, this is about one man who takes a lot of time preparing for Halloween, Nancy, and keeps a close eye on costume contests. This year he did, but it seems he missed them.
These took about 3 months to complete. Next to that, I'd have to say probably a chest plate. That took another month and a half, 2 months or so.
Eric Duffy is a big Halloween fan and a big fan of Gene Simmons of the band Kiss. So he decided dressing up as Simmons used to do would be the perfect costume. And this isn't one that's thrown together. In all, Eric spends 2 or 3 hours just putting on his face and a good deal of additional time getting into his getup. This year, the new Misty Moon in Halifax advertised it was giving away $200 on October 30th for the best costume. So Eric and his wife decided that's where they'd spend their night. But a costume contest never materialized.
Usually, they'd have it in between the 2 different band sets. They'd have the first band, and then they'd have a break, and then they'd usually do the contest or whatever and have the main act come on. They usually pick people out of the audience who they think has good costumes, and you all go up on stage, and the band and the audience does the judging by means of applause and stuff like that.
Eric and Kathy were there from the time the doors opened on the 30th to the bitter end when the lights came back on. But they never saw a winner or heard one announced, leaving them to wonder if the prize was ever awarded.
I asked several of the waitresses, I asked a few of the bouncers, and I also asked the DJ about it as well. If I hadn't seen the ad there and there wasn't going to be a contest there, I wouldn't have gone there. I probably would have went someplace else.
Great costume. What does the Misty Moon say about this?
Well, I spoke to the manager, Don McKinnon, this afternoon, and he confirmed that the contest was canceled, that the $200 prize was not awarded. He said it was a couple of problems that developed. One, there were 2 bands playing. They couldn't fit it in between bands, and at the end, the production company had messed up the stage, and they couldn't use the stage for the contest. But now Eric Duffy was quite disappointed by all this, because, as I said, he keeps an eye out for these and likes to go and take part. And if you feel that there may possibly be a case of misleading advertising, false advertising, there is a government department, Industry and Science Canada, that you can contact, their marketing practices branch, and I have put Eric in touch with them in case he wants to file an official complaint and have the matter investigated.
All right, great. Thanks, Yvonne.
You're welcome.
ATV's Yvonne Colbert is on your side. Paul.
Thank you, Nancy. We're back in just a moment with a gripping, true story.
The pilot called and said there's about 40 or 50 German fighters around the plane ahead of us, and they were flying in a circle, giving the people time to bail out. And after they bailed out, they used the airplane for target practice. And he was witness to it.
It could have belonged to a Russian princess or to an Italian contessa. It looks like it should have a romantic past, but it's simply a romantic present from Shoppers Drug Mart.
Now with your $20 purchase from any one participating cosmetics line, this elegant 3-piece vanity set is yours, free. Perfume decanter, jewelry box, and silver-plated tray. Free with your $20 cosmetics purchase at Shoppers Drug Mart.
Mom's horror stories. Lawn crushing, edgy drenching, grass stomping. To whiten these horrible stains, you need new Liquid Tide with Bleach Alternative, a new way to whiten all your clothes. Now you can get whites this dirty, this dazzling. A new Liquid Tide with Bleach Alternative whitens without chlorine bleach, so it's safe to pre-treat even the brightest colors. New Liquid Tide with Bleach Alternative, and now new Ultra Liquid Tide in a convenient compact size.
This is it. Wacky's first ever 24-hour inventory sell-off. Get huge savings throughout the store. Buy now, pay nothing for up to 6 months. No down payment, no interest, and no payments. Get $2,500 instant credit on approval. Save on TVs, VCRs, camcorders, microwaves, cellular phones, area rugs, hardwood flooring, blinds, shampooers, carpet, and much, much more. Get the gift you want now and pay nothing for up to 6 months with no down payment, no interest, and no payments. It's Wacky's 24-hour total inventory sell-off. Friday and Saturday, 9 till 9 at these Wacky Wheatley locations.
94 Hyundai, meeting the needs of New Brunswick drivers at affordable prices with uncompromising quality and reliability. Introducing the 94 Elantra, a sporty family sedan redesigned inside and out for quality and value-conscious people. Starting at $11,795, you get many standard features, including available driver's side airbag, optional ABS, and one of the best warranties in the business. Home of the 1,000,000-kilometer warranty. Your New Brunswick Hyundai dealers in Dalhousie, Beresford, Moncton, St. John, and Fredericton.
Bring back my bomber, Amy.
Well, in the summer of 1940, Britain stood alone and faced an enemy that vowed to land its troops on British soil before year's end.
Yeah, the burden of defense was dropped squarely on the shoulders of an outnumbered and under-equipped Royal Air Force.
For 2 years and at tremendous loss of men and equipment, the RAF held back the Luftwaffe. RCAF pilots also fought alongside the RAF in the Battle of Britain at a cost of some 10,000 men.
And then another British ally lit up the skies over Europe. This evening, ATV's Bill Jessum's Memories of War looks at one crew member's brush with death.
Germany's declaration of war against the United States brought the Yanks to Britain in 1942. One of those Americans who helped Britain win back supremacy over the Luftwaffe was Joe Mahoney. Joe and his wife, Flora Ann, are now Canadian citizens and have lived in Yarmouth for the past 20 years. They spend most of their time doing volunteer work. When Joe was just 20, he flew as a tail gunner in a B-24 bomber. On his 11th mission, a bombing raid on a ball-bearing factory in Austria, Joe's luck ran out.
This particular day, the Germans had everything I think that would fly was up there. And a Ju-88 came in at, about 10 o'clock, and he was climbing at us like that. And he fired 2 rockets, and immediately the 2 rockets took 3 engines out. We flew for about 45 minutes, and we bombed at 21,500 feet. And I have Army records to back all this up. And the last fix that I had from the pilot was we were at about 14,000 feet. And he called in and he said there was a plane ahead of us. I had no idea how many miles it would have been, but it was in eyesight. It was struggling as we were, and we were trying to catch him. We thought, well, if we have firepower 2 ships, we're better off than 1. And the pilot called and said there's about 40 or 50 German fighters around the plane ahead of us. And they were flying in a circle, giving the people time to bail out. And after they bailed out, they used the airplane for target practice. And he was witness to all this, because I was in the back and I couldn't see it. And he then said, get ready, he said, because they're headed for us.
Getting ready meant bailing out, something Joe Mahoney didn't learn during flight training school.
And I sat down, I put my feet out of the hatch, and I was afraid to go, you know. And but you had no choice. You're going down one way or the other. We eventually I did go, and as I went out of the plane, it was 2 days before my 21st birthday. All I could think of, all the trouble you have, I'm not going to live to see 21. You know, it's just crazy the way your mind works.
When Joe finally hit the ground in the mountains of Yugoslavia, he wasn't greeted with open arms by the locals.
And there was a woman came out of the farmhouse, and she had a pitchfork. And we never carried guns with us. We had guns, but they were back in Italy. And the thought was being that if we had a gun, we had 6 shots. And if we were in an area where there was 100 German troops, what's 6 shots? It's going to get you in trouble. You know, it's not going to save anything. So the pitchfork made her boss.
Under the cover of darkness, the partisans moved Joe and his buddies closer to safety. However, it wasn't without incident.
My co-pilot was killed in a severe attack that we had. My pilot was hit in the leg. His leg was taken off with gangrene. And be in a barn with no anesthetics, no medication, no antibiotics, nothing.
Joe finally made it back to safety, and last September, 50 years later, he returned to that village in Yugoslavia and met some of the partisans who saved his life.
I think of those people every day of my life. There is never a day since I came out of there that I don't think of those people.
For millions, the Second World War remains to this day the most significant experience of their lives. For millions more, it means the end of all memories. Many remember each year at reunions, at cenotaphs, and at gravesides. And many remember less somber incidents, moments of joy, moments of laughter and comradeship. But the important thing is to remember. I'm Bill Jessam, ATV News.
Well, tomorrow Bill sheds his role as objective reporter and gives us a personal perspective, his memories of leaving the Maritimes as a young man for the battlefields of World War II. It's a national award-winning piece, which, because of numerous requests over the last couple of years, we will replay tomorrow on Live at 5.
But up next on Live at 5, have you ever wondered how children deal with Remembrance Day? We visited classrooms around the region today to find out. And we'll also hear from a person who knows full well the importance of the sacrifice our veterans made.
And they used to have a line, buckets of line, cover up the bodies and then put up. When we came in house, we built.
She invited me over for coffee, asked me to pick up some Coffee Mate on the way. But the store didn't have just Coffee Mate. They had Irish Cream Coffee Mate, Hazelnut Coffee Mate, Amaretto Coffee Mate. I wasn't expecting these new specialty flavors. I didn't know what to do. Then a nice lady came along and helped me pick one out. So I went over to her place for coffee instead. Coffee Mate makes your cup of coffee taste great.
The Simpsons, Canada's largest family, now own a restaurant.
Where's the lettuce?
We're out of lettuce.
It's a busy place, so on occasion they get headaches.
We're out of lettuce?
Real headaches.
We are out of lettuce.
That's why they use Anison. Anison, strong enough for your worst headaches.
Let's make it perfectly clear. 93.4 tempo, GLs, automatic with air. Only $259 a month. Absolutely nothing down. Everything included. Everything. PDI, freight, all taxes. Everything means everything. The bottom line is $259 a month. Zero down. Drive a 93 tempo for only $259 a month. Talk about price. Talk about service. Talk to Wood Motors, Fredericton and Ormonto.
Dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields.
Since students won't be in school tomorrow to mark Remembrance Day, these students at Bayside Junior High School in St. John had their own ceremony today. Teachers at the school emphasized the importance of the holiday to the young generation. And students at Astral Drive Junior High in Cole Harbour held a special Remembrance Day service this morning. The key speaker was Philip Reitman, a survivor of the Holocaust. It's been more than 40 years since Reitman was liberated by American troops after 4 years in 3 Nazi death camps, including Auschwitz. But the memories of the horrors are still vivid and painful.
I weighed 75 pounds. I was 19 years old.
Mr. Reitman still carries a tattooed number on his arm, a constant reminder of the family he lost and the slaughters he witnessed in the death camps. Paul.
I guess the question is, will maritime youngsters view tomorrow as just a day off from class? You know, each passing year puts more distance between our young people and war, but the importance of remembering is not lost on today's generation, as ATV's Dan McIntosh found out.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row.
The Remembrance Day Assembly at Acadia Street School in New Glasgow mirrored many of those in elementary, junior, and senior high schools across the region. Students dressed in scout uniforms in a gymnasium filled with paper poppies and crosses. Veterans dressed in their medals and Legion uniforms, telling students about the importance of remembering. But do these students, whose parents grew up in peacetime, know why we must never forget? You'd be surprised.
For the people who died in the war.
That's right. And why do you wear a poppy?
To know that they care about you.
The soldiers died and we're going to wear poppies to remember them.
The same holds true for senior high school students.
Well, it's important to remember the mistakes made in the past so that we don't repeat them. Above all, if we only learn one thing from war, is to not make the mistakes that we made in the past.
You realize what they've done. For us, it's more, we're thankful that we don't have to think about it because they've done it.
I think it'll be harder for our children because they pretty much have no contact. Like, we still have our grandparents and stories from them.
The veterans who attend these school services say it's reassuring to see just how much the young people of today know about Remembrance Day.
It has to start in the schools. The children must, it's not hard for fellows like us to remember, but it has to be passed on to the children. They're the ones, and the teachers here are doing a terrific job in the school.
In New Glasgow, Dan McIntosh, ATV News.
Thank you, Dan. And don't forget to take your poppies off after ceremonies tomorrow morning. Richard Zarowski now with what kind of weather we can expect when we head to the cenotaphs. Richard.
Well, Nancy and Paul, it should be a pretty good morning, all things considered. We're looking at some sunshine, a few cloudy periods. Temperatures between -2 and +3 degrees, a little on the chilly side. Up to the north, we could be looking at a few scattered snow flurries, but by and large, it should be a rather pleasant morning tomorrow morning as far as the weather is concerned. And also on our marine forecast, wind will be out of the north at 25 knots this evening. Wave heights of around 2 to 3 meters out there as the disturbance brushes the southern areas of the map. Our weekend watch says for Saturday it'll be sunny with cloudy periods. Temperature up around 8 degrees with a 30% probability of precipitation for Sunday. A few showers come rolling in, mainly cloudy conditions. Daytime highs on the warmish side at 9 degrees with a 60% probability of precipitation. Our weather fact says, yes, the weatherman is always in a fog, but did you know that Nova Scotia is the foggiest maritime province? And as a matter of fact, there are only 2 provinces that are foggier than Nova Scotia. And Paul and Nancy, I'm sure, have the answers to this.
Yeah, BC and Newfoundland, right?
Got to be Newfoundland.
You guys are great.
Thanks.
I think we had practice on this one, Richard. Here's our primetime lineup for tonight. Starts at 6:30 with Full House, and then at 7, Murphy Brown. Home Improvements on at 7:30. Terrific. Did you see Tim Allen on the Barbara Walters special last night?
Yeah, what a nice
show.
guy.
Joe's Life is on at 8 o'clock. Herman's Head at 8:30. Unsolved Mysteries at 9 o'clock, followed by ENG at 10, and Neon Rider at 11 to take us to the CTV News at midnight.
And tomorrow on Live at 5, a special Remembrance Day edition. We'll cover ceremonies across the Maritimes. We'll introduce you to 5 brothers who served in World War II, and, of course, Bill Jessum's personal retrospective.
Very special edition of Live at 5 tomorrow. Hope you'll join us. The news continues now on ATV with Steve Murphy. Steve?
Thank you, Paul. Tonight, suspect in custody. Cops and questions. Lots of questions in St. John. Also, tonight, the charge is cruelty. But was she running a puppy mill?
Well, if one talks in terms of the amount of animals, like I say, we certainly haven't seen anything with that amount of animals being seized.
And days off, wage cuts and rollbacks. Are public servants public scapegoats?
It's not a bunch of employees deficit, it's everybody's, really, and I don't think it's a fair measure, no.
Now, from the #1 news team in Atlantic Canada, the ATV Evening News.
Good evening. Police have a man in custody tonight after a standoff in the north end of St. John today. ATV's Connell Smith was also there during this incident. Connell, what is going on there? We're going to be finding out from Connell Smith shortly. Right now, here's his report.
After several hours of waiting, things began to happen very quickly.
First, a man was brought struggling out of the building and put into the back of a police cruiser. The car then raced away. The suspect was sandwiched between two police officers in the back seat. A woman who had appeared very upset during the arrest had nothing to say afterward. Police are still offering few details.
It's in relation to the incident in April at the Eastern Station in St. John. At this time, I can't give you any more information after the court appearance.
Last April, police discovered what was termed an explosive device outside the East St. John police station. It did not go off. There have been a number of other bombings in the St. John area over the past 4 years, but police are not saying if they're investigating a connection. Police will say they went to the apartment with an arrest warrant for the man. There were other people in the apartment, but police did not say if they were hostages.
Well, we were interested in the safety of the people inside and public safety at large, so we did things in a very prudent manner.
Police say the suspect is due to appear in court on Friday. Steve, police had been planning this operation. They came in force not to question, but to arrest this man. So apparently they had been investigating it for some time. Neighbors knew absolutely nothing about this. Police arrived with flak jackets, with dogs, with shotguns. There was quite a number of police on the scene, and it's in a very upscale North End neighborhood in Milledgeville, and the police neighbors had no idea about what was going on.
And again, it ended peacefully, no shots, no trouble.
No injuries. Police say it went fairly smoothly, although the man did appear to be struggling a little bit when they put him in the police car.
All right, Connell, thanks. ATV's Connell Smith live tonight and just back from Manor Sutton Road in the north end of St. John. Well, as the university considers what to do, some students at UNB are mounting their own campaign against Matan Yakzan. He's the assistant professor who ignited a controversy with an article on date rape in the Brunswick, the campus newspaper. ATV's Kate Lederick is joining us live with the very latest from Fredericton tonight. Kate?
Well, Steve, a recent survey at UNB found that about 25% of the students have had an unwanted sexual experience. So this article by Yakzan has made a lot of people angry. A petition is now being prepared to deal with the issue.
Yakzan, could you talk to us, sir?
Leave my camera alone.
Could you talk to us, sir? Assistant math professor Matan Yakzan is still running from the controversy he created by writing an article on date rape in the student newspaper. The article outlines his views, including his belief that women with a lot of sexual experience don't suffer from rape like virgins. The professor won't talk to reporters unless they pay him a fee of $25,000. Although Yakzan has refused to discuss the article, it's got everyone else on campus talking.
Students are really upset about this issue. It's really put the campus in an uproar, and I think students are really concerned about what this means for them and whether or not they can attend classes with a professor that makes statements like this, and I don't think anybody wants that of our classmates.
Tammy Yates is getting a petition ready for circulation. What's the petition all about?
We're asking the university to make alternative arrangements that students have a choice and they don't have to go to Professor Yakzan's course if they feel uncomfortable, that another professor would be available to teach his classes.
The petition is surfacing just as university officials consider disciplinary action against Yakzan. Is that something you'll take into account when you make a decision as well?
Yes, we will certainly consider that petition, and we will try to accommodate the students' learning needs and objectives as best we can.
And while almost everyone on campus disagrees with Yakzan's views on date rape, former student Deidre McLean says his opinions haven't influenced his teaching. How does he treat his female students?
Well, I don't know. He never really talked about any of his issues in class. Like he taught me my math class, and he just taught us math. He didn't go into his beliefs and personal opinions or anything.
Although the article has sparked what many call a negative controversy, students say at least something good has come out of all of this, and that's a raised awareness of the issue of date rape. Steve.
All right, Kate, thanks for the update tonight. ATV's Kate Lederick, just back from College Hill in Fredericton. A Prince Edward Island man has been charged with a brutal sexual assault that happened in Charlottetown almost a year ago. A woman was forced at knife point to get into her car and drive outside the city where she was sexually assaulted. She eventually got away from her attacker. 31-year-old Alan Eugene Clark from Fort Augustus faces charges of abduction and sexual assault with a weapon. He will be back in court November 25th for election and plea. 46 dogs and puppies are safe tonight after being seized from their owner by Halifax Mounties. A Metro Halifax woman is facing charges of cruelty to animals as a result of all of this. ATV Star Dobson is joining us now live with the rest of the story. Star.
Steve, this morning the lawyer representing Nini Gillis pled not guilty to a charge of cruelty to animals in Halifax Provincial Court. Now this charge is a result of a raid which RCMP did on her home during the first week of October. These are some of the dogs RCMP seized from the home of Nini Gillies in Timberley after receiving complaints from the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals.
They eventually came to us with their information, and we in turn investigated it, obtained a search warrant, and with them went to the residence in Timberley with a search warrant and executed the search warrant and seized the animals.
The dogs and puppies were taken from their owner during the first week of October. SPCA officials tell us they showed signs of neglect and they were very dirty. But other than that, they're not being very specific as to the actual condition of the dogs. The animals have been under the care of the SPCA for about 6 weeks now. They were billeted to various locations throughout Metro. The interesting thing to note is that all of these dogs are purebreds. Many of them could be sold for a price of up to $400. Just the dogs in here alone would total close to $8,000. Provincial cruelty investigator Jessica Hunt is remaining tight-lipped with details pending the trial.
The animals were taken to veterinarians for care.
Is this a puppy mill situation?
What's the definition of a puppy mill? I really don't know. If you look at it in terms of the numbers of dogs that were seized, possibly.
Steve, the trial has been set for January 17th. Now, until then, the dogs will be kept under the care of the SPCA. So right now, the fate of the dogs actually remains undecided. We won't know what's actually going to happen to them until the judge rules on this case.
All right, Star. Thank you. ATV Star Dobson, live tonight in Halifax. Halifax police have dismantled a big homegrown marijuana operation in the city's north end. They seized about 35 plants, about 400 joints, bags of loose marijuana, hash, cash, and lighting gear. One man will appear in court at a later date to be charged with drug-related offenses. And in showing off what they got, the police say this is a fairly substantial operation to be taking place in an apartment, which is where they found it.
Well, I mean, if you compare it with something that comes off the boats and is going to Upper Canada, to the States, it's very, very, very small. But for an operation in somebody's apartment, for drugs going throughout the city, it's a considerable amount of drugs here.
The value of the stuff won't be known until police have been able to determine exactly how much marijuana was on those plants. Our Riverglade, New Brunswick man faces an impaired driving charge today after smashing into an RCMP car last night in Crapo on PEI. 51-year-old Donald Gordon Stevens was charged after a car ran into the back of a police car at the scene of an accident. Constable George Beale of the Borden Detachment narrowly escaped serious injury. He was released from the hospital today. Stevens is back in court on the 6th of December. And there were a lot of angry hockey fans on the island last night after somebody slashed the tires on 16 cars and trucks outside the Charlottetown Civic Center. ATV's Dan Vio with that story tonight.
Mike Matters found out this morning. He wasn't one of the hockey fans at the UPEI game here last night. He had run out of gas and parked here on his way to work.
You're not alone. You realize there were 16 vehicles had the tires slashed here last night. You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just flat. They're foolish.
Matters and Barry Johnson were comparatively lucky. They had just one tire slashed. Several of the 16 vehicles hit had all 4 tires flattened.
There was, I think 6 or 7 others along the side here, and not very nice.
4 other vehicles had tires slashed here in the last 2 days. Police say they're not sure they're related to last night, but there were witnesses to at least one of those events right here on a busy main street in the middle of the day.
Yesterday afternoon at around 4:30, a girl, a young teen, was seen slashing a tire and leaving the area. So we might not be looking for the typical profile.
With insurance deductibles typically $250, this tire slashing spree will cost the victims around $4,000 all told. Police are asking downtown residents to keep their eyes open.
We have to be. We can't say take your tires off and take them in the house at night.
In Charlottetown, Dan Vio, ATV News.
The main managers of Sydney Steel were on the hot seat today at a meeting of the Nova Scotia Public Accounts Committee. The province is trying to sell off Cisco, but today these officials defended the mill's recent performance. When pressed, however, the president refused to release the terms of his own contract and, more specifically, how much money he's making.
They had on their list.
I'm not comfortable talking about that either.
I'm not comfortable asking the question, but I would like an answer.
You know, the whole thing about salaries
when you're in a commercial environment certainly differs from when you're discussing a government department or bureaucracy. And anything that we do in the way, excuse me, right, but in, yes, I realize that, but the taxpayers are also concerned about how we affect our bottom line.
The province is trying to negotiate the sale of Cisco to Min Metals of China. There's been no decision on that yet, though. And there were more accusations today that the Nova Scotia government is making life even more difficult for the poor. Further changes to the Family Benefits Act will take money away from needy families with young unemployed adults living at home. And some say it may force more youngsters into the streets and into activities like prostitution. ATV's Heather Proudfoot standing by live with that story for us tonight. Heather?
You know, Steve, this is the second day in a row that attention has been drawn to some subtle changes to Nova Scotia's family benefits rules. And some critics suggest this is the beginning of an unsettling trend.
This is the Metro Welfare Rights Organization. They say they're worried about a change that will now take $40 a month away from welfare families who have young unemployed adults between 18 and 21 years of age living at home, defined as boarders, and that it may force more of them onto the streets.
As a result of these cutbacks and what have you, people are going to end up doing desperate things and taking desperate measures. Prostitution might be one of them.
It was the NDP who raised that issue today in the House. They say this will affect lots of young adults between 18 and 21, and that it does increase the risk of them leaving home for the streets.
This is a very, very harsh penalty for families who want to continue providing care and shelter to their own children.
The Community Services Minister, though, defends the move.
I think we have to look at where the greatest need is, and this is one area that we thought we could make some adjustments in, as no changes have been made there for over 20 years.
And the NDP is suggesting this is just the thin edge of the wedge as government moves to review eligibility requirements for a number of family benefits programs.
Yesterday, for instance, a program to help low-income diabetics with funding for special food and medical testing was canceled. Welfare Rights is worried, too, about a subtle attack on the poor.
I feel, unfortunately, the person that ends up being hurt is the low and fixed income person.
And again, the minister in charge, the guy who makes the decisions, reiterated today more adjustments are coming. General eligibility, for instance, for family benefits will be under review in the new year. Steve.
All right, thank you, Heather, for the update tonight. ATV's Heather Proudfoot live in Halifax. Public servants are being rolled back and frozen and even sent home to help government save money, but is it fair? A story later, after we meet Canada's newest Member of Parliament.
I do swear
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance.
She's half the Tory caucus. Next.
Friday.
You have a bad day here. Somebody dies.
Check that door for heat. Kurt Russell, William Baldwin, and Robert De Niro in Backdraft. Friday at 9 on ATV.
While every car maker offers protection to help people survive accidents, one company asked, what could be safer than not having an accident at all? Recently, they developed a new anti-lock brake, specially designed to cost less. So this year, anti-lock brakes aren't just for expensive cars, because this year, they're standard equivalent on 95% of the cars they make. The company is General Motors.
Fisher-Price Diner Roars. They're a scream. Because kids will be kids, we make a tape recorder that plays as hard as they do. The Fisher-Price tape recorder, built to take it, and take it, and take it. Batteries and cassette not included.
Knock on Wood, where your dollar is worth a dollar. The Canadian dollar is at par every day at Knock on Wood. For all your gift and craft supply needs, drop in or call this toll-free number and shop where your dollar is worth a dollar at Knock on Wood, 3 miles from Calais, Maine.
Elsie Wayne was sworn in as MP for St. John today, declaring herself a kind of independent conservative, but saying she has no plans to leave the Tories for the Reform Party. ATV's Jonathan Freed with more from Ottawa.
To Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.